Hi everybody, this is Professor Andrea Shambly coming to you from the middle of the pandemic without a mask and with a fresh haircut. So hopefully all of you are starting to get back to normal. Gosh, you guys did a great job with the case studies so far this week. So great, in fact, that nobody's posted on the other board. So I'm going to ask you to make sure you post at least once and preferably twice on that board. And I think going in the future, I'll remind you to, if you're going to post 4 times, post 2 on one board and 2 on the other. So thank you for bearing with me while we figure out what's the best way to make sure you are able to spend time on both boards. Now, because that hypothetical GLP is going to be important for you as we go forward. I wanted to point out a couple things. One is a lot of these cases don't involve FDA violations at all. They involve wire fraud, such as Theranos, and one reason why it's hard to keep track of FDA cases is because the charges center around wire fraud because they're using the mail, they're using internet now, of course. So if you look only for FDA violations in court cases, you might not find them as easily as you'll find wire fraud violations. So keep that in mind. Another court issue I wanted to talk about is the case of the moldy beef jerky. So why didn't that plaintiff just sue in Hawaii in state court under their consumer protection laws? Well, it's probably because he was a tourist and he wasn't going to be in Hawaii to prosecute the case. Also, federal courts are much easier on plaintiffs and injured people. Everybody wants to get in federal court. The damages are higher, and the rules of evidence are more uniform, more predictable, and more different. So that was why that case, why that plaintiff was trying to get into federal court. A couple other points I want to make. The case of Imish Kari and Dr. Baltimore is, although they ended up being exonerated, the truth was that the laboratory notebooks were sloppy. And it's a cautionary tale that sloppy data can be just as dangerous for your company and your reputation and your career as intentionally manipulated data. So good documentation practices are very important. So keep that case in mind when you're trying to advise someone who has the best interest at heart, but maybe doesn't have the resources or the time or the inclination to make sure their data isn't sloppy. When you think about it, negligent data collection at the GLP stage can be just as dangerous to patients and clinical trial subjects going forward as intentionally manipulated data. So even though they were exonerated, it's still important to keep that in mind. Another thing I wanted to point out is, on the other hand, Cetera is an example of data that's too good to be true. If patients never miss an appointment, if the blood work doesn't change from appointment to appointment, or it should change between hour to hour. So if the data is too good to be true, if it's copied from another patient and everybody's results seem the same, that is a red flag to any auditor, any FDA compliance professional. You don't have to be a doctor to know that it looks funny when someone's blood work has the same results over an entire clinical trial or preclinical trial. So that's the other end of that spectrum. And that's why those cases are important today. I think that covers it. So going forward, be sure to post in the hypothetical on GLP, and going forward, I'll ask you to post at least 2 in one discussion board and 2 in the other. And I hope I see you Saturday. The class is going to be fun. It's going to be helpful not just for your writing, but for your posting and for your career. There'll be some other classes, students who will be joining us. It doesn't count as your required meeting. I want to remind you because I'd like you to go to a meeting with FDA professionals where there's a cross collaboration between industry and FDA and patients. And of course, you won't see that here. But I can tell you this course will help your posts be shorter and easier to write, not just in this class, but going forward. They'll be good for your career, and it'll be nice to see you there. So thank you for listening, and I'll be back soon. Bye.